I want to start this series by talking about something that I hear parents say all the time, and that is, I'm covering my child in prayer. And I want to walk through this for a minute because a lot of parents are saying it, but not everyone fully understands what that actually looks like. And when we don't understand it clearly, we can start carrying things that were never meant for us to carry as parents. So let me ask you this. When you say you're covering your child, what does that look like for you? Because for some parents, it looks like constantly thinking about them, constantly worrying, constantly trying to figure things out, and then praying, but still feeling heavy afterward. And that's usually the first sign that something is off because spiritual covering was never meant to feel like pressure. Spiritual covering is not you trying to control your child's life through prayer. It's not you trying to make something happen. And it's definitely not you feeling responsible for the outcome. Spiritual covering is a position. It's where you choose to stand on behalf of your child while allowing God to be God in their life. And I think this is where many parents get stuck because they move from covering into carrying. And those are not the same thing. Carrying looks like this. You're thinking about your child all day. Your emotions are constantly tied to what they are doing. You feel responsible to fix or prevent something. And even when you pray, you don't feel lighter. You still feel like it's all on you. But covering looks very different. Covering looks like you bring your child before God intentionally and you pray, but you don't stay mentally consumed all day. You're aware, but you're not overwhelmed. And then you care and you love them deeply, but you're not carrying the outcome. And that difference matters more than parents realize. So let me ground this in scripture for you. Ezekiel 22 and 30, the NIV version. And it says, I looked for someone among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land. Now, that phrase, stand in the gap, it doesn't mean take over. It means position yourself. It means you step in spiritually, not to control, but to intercede. You're standing before God on their behalf, not stepping into their life to manage or control it. And this is where spiritual warfare starts to come in, but not in the way most people think. Because when people hear spiritual warfare, they think of something intense, something dramatic, something outside of them. But a lot of times, spiritual warfare shows up in much more subtle ways. It shows up in your thoughts, pressure. It shows up in how heavy everything feels. For instance, in scripture, Ephesians 6 and 12. It says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, which means your child is not the enemy. Even when their choices or their actions hurt, even when their behavior is hard to understand, there can be influences, there can be patterns, there can be things underneath what you're seeing. And spiritual covering means you don't just react to what's visible, you're becoming aware of what may be influencing it underneath it. Let me give you an example. If your child is making poor choices, carrying looks like trying to fix it, trying to correct it, and talk them out of it constantly, right? But covering sounds like God, open their eyes, bring truth where there's confusion, send the right people into their life, interrupt what is not aligned with you. Do you hear the difference? One is trying to control the situation, and the other is trusting God to move in ways you can't. So here's another layer that a lot of parents don't realize. Spiritual covering is not just about your child, it's also about you. Because if your thoughts are constantly in fear, and if your mind is always going to worst case scenarios, and if you're overwhelmed all the time, you can't stay steady in your position. This is where 2 Corinthians 10 and 5 comes in, where it says, we take captive every thought. That's part of spiritual covering, not just praying for your child, but guarding your own mind so you don't come into agreement with fear, because agreement matters. You can have a thought, but when you agree with it, that's when it starts shaping how you feel and how you respond. So let me say this clearly. Spiritual covering is not you carrying the outcome or you feeling responsible for fixing everything. It's not you living in a constant emotional overwhelm or you trying to control things through prayer. It's not fear driven either, because fear will make you feel like if you don't pray enough, something bad is going to happen. And that is not how this works. No. Spiritual covering is you standing before God on behalf of your child, you praying with clarity and not panic. It's you recognizing influence without fear. It's you staying grounded even when things aren't clear. It's you trusting God to do what you cannot do. It's a position, not pressure. And I want you to hold on to this. God cares about your child more than you do. He sees what you don't see. He understands what you don't understand, and he's present in places you can't reach. Your role is not to replace him. Your role is to stay aligned with him. So as we go through this series, I want you to begin releasing the pressure to do this perfectly. You don't have to get everything right. You don't have to figure everything out. You just need to stay aligned and positioned. Because when you stay in that place, you're not just reacting to what's happening, you're standing in the gap with clarity, with peace, and with purpose.